Thank you so much. Um, just want to assure everybody, I know we are at an AI conference and I am human. So I'm going to kickstart now as a moderator. It was a joke, by the way. A laugh would have helped. So good to hear that you are also all human. So you got the joke. So now coming to Amit. The global capability centers have become the nerve centers of all the big organizations. So what do you think has been the journey for the GCCs to get here?
No, so firstly, it's a pleasure to be here. Great session so far. So I think you're right. When it comes to nerve center, there have been multiple changes which have really happened, over the last many years. So I can think of 4 topics, and I'm sure there are quite a few. So one is the overall structure, that we talk about. So within structure, you talk about the sponsorship, alignment, as well as the operating model. So earlier, when we used to talk about GICs or service centers, they were actually attributed to one particular function, whether it's finance, technology, or specific area. Today, when it comes to the sponsorship, it's actually at the group CEO level of, in most of the cases, right? Which means that the GCCs here are becoming true microcosm, connecting to all the business units, tech units, operation unit, which has significant potential when it comes to further growth and development, and alignment is becoming much more integral, which again leads to operating model change, which I'm sure many of the mature GCCs have gone through, where the model has become much more functional, much more integrated. It's no longer that GCC is a separate entity and you have a different mothership. So it's all functional teams, which also then breaks the glass ceiling when it comes to bringing more knowledge and domain expertise. So that's one area, The second is more around the focus. Of course, we all know the focus earlier used to be cost, which moved to talent. Now it's more around the capability transformation. That doesn't mean that we don't talk about cost. I think even today, most of the global MNCs are focused on that, but that's a hygiene element. But the entire narrative, storyline, and what impact you create, that is measured more than anything else. The third topic I would say is more around leadership and accountability. Right, so over the last 10, 15 years, we have seen that even if you look at the demographics of any of the GCC, it has rather moved from junior to more of a mid seniority, right, across the spectrum. And now many of us are in the journey where we are saying, okay, how do we break the glass ceilings? How can we bring more global leadership roles? The entire mindset has changed from execution to more ownership driven. And I guess today, everyone is striving for some of those mandates, responsibilities, and how do you really enable the top line and not just focus on productivity, efficiency, right? And the fourth element, if I have to briefly talk about, is more on the entire value chain. So through the entire day, we've been talking about innovation, transformation. Honestly, innovation comes live only when you have the entire business value chain sitting along with the technology teams, right? You cannot just create tech platforms in isolation. You cannot just create AI models in isolation. So you have to really think about how do you create that business impact. And today, many of the GCCs which are evolved, they are becoming true mini headquarters or real microcosms. And so the positive side of the value chain is super significant, in the evolution of GCCs as well as the next steps that what we are talking about.
I think I couldn't agree more with you, Amit. You want to add,
just
Lalitha?
Add to that, Vidya. I think beautifully articulated, Amit. I think GCCs are more becoming, that trusted advisors and transformation partners, and more importantly, value amplifiers. And that is possible because of all the things that Amit already listed in terms of having the ability to have the bird's eye view of the organization, not particular to one geography, but understanding the problems across geographies, because the GCCs tend to cater to across the world, global, right? India has always been, even organizations which has GBCs across the globe, India is always called the global GBS or global GCC, because the work that happens here more nature of the things that are common across the globe. And because of that, our ability to look at the different parts of the organization gives us a very unique perspective, which is used as a tool to do the transformations and value amplification.
That terminology that you used is brilliant, Lalitha, and I think even Amit was talking so much about value creation. A few years ago, when we went into any of the conferences, mostly we were talking about delivery and service. And now we are talking about value creation and value amplification. So this is a good segue to my second question regarding the innovation and the new tech and platforms that we talk about. So what are the roles that GCCs are playing in this area now?
I think, of course, people shouldn't get confused with innovation with transformation, which I always keep saying that wherever I go. The role that GCC plays, especially the role that India plays, is unique because of our unique ecosystem. The partnerships, the partner ecosystem, the academia, the startup ecosystem. I think we are one of the biggest startup ecosystems in the world. Bringing all these different elements together, the government, the ease of doing business, there are a lot of things that come together to make innovation successful. But more often than not, organizations fail in their innovation journey because innovation for the sake of it is not a good thing. Because it's the big bright word and the shining star, everybody wants to say, oh, we also innovate kind of a thing. But I think more importantly is to create an innovation radar within your organization where you put a proper funneling, proper qualifying what kind of things do we want to work. And more importantly, I've seen even the biggest organization who have established innovation centers fail to articulate the business value, right? Business value could be commercial, business value could be solving some problems. It could be anything, but I think it is important to create that innovation radar and defining how are you going to measure this innovation, how do you quantify it, qualify it, and what do we want to get out of that, and being upfront, clear about it would help with it. But the ecosystem in India definitely helps the GCCs to be playing a central role in that.
Yeah, that is really good. Amit, do you want to add on to it?
Yeah, so I guess you'll keep on hearing one term, which is like a business-first approach. Yeah, I think, Lalitha, that's what you've been highlighting. And if I have to just give an example from a Swiss Re context, right? So overall, Swiss Re is 160-year-old organization. Yeah, primarily we've been into the business of risk protection, insurance, reinsurance. But very recently, we created a new business unit to diversify our income stream, which is a fee-based income, where we actually build and leverage the tech platforms to offer the risk insights, which we have accumulated all through, and then how can we actually create more value to our clients, to our customers, but more on a fee basis rather than taking the risk. And as we were building that unit at the group level, India was integral to that build-up. So 1/3 of that capability, which we call as reinsurance solution, is actually based out of India. Right, and that happened right from the start. So which just shows the impact the GCCs create in terms of business models, and these are the business models which are tech-driven. So if I give you one specific example, so the leadership of that particular tool and the entire app, which generates multi-million dollars for us, was done entirely from India. It's called RDA, Rapid Disaster Assessment. So I'll try to simplify. So think of like a hurricane hitting US coast. Yes?
Hurricane, remember?
Exactly. So as the hurricane is approaching, of course, there are quite a few models which can detect, what will be the wind speed, when will be the landfall, and et cetera, et cetera. But what we did was over and above. So of course, you have this entire model which is built up. But then through satellite imagery as well as artificial intelligence, we also started doing the exposure assessment. So as the hurricane is approaching in a real-time basis, we are already estimating along with our clients that what will be their potential loss exposure given the path of the hurricane and the wind speed, and really overlaying those risks from various households, etc. So that is point number one in terms of immediate value impact for the insurance company. Secondly, think from people whose households are just about to get shattered or affected. Right? And what would they expect? They want a faster claim settlement. So what we then did was, using the AI tools, we said, okay, this will be the potential damage and this will be the potential claim that needs to be paid. And as the hurricane is approaching, you really know on a real-time basis what is that damage, basis which you are saying, okay, let's trigger faster payouts, so that consumers, they get at least some basic minimum amount. And then as the claims adjudication process comes after the hurricane has gone through, they get the remaining money. So this way, you're creating more value for the consumer. You're also reducing 1/3 of expense, which is associated with the entire claims process. So this is, I'm just giving you an example, but starts with a business model, but then how AI and tech actually plays a role in creating that impact on the society, on the insurance companies to protect their businesses, but then to consumers ultimately, so that they get real value of an insurance product.
That's great. If I were to summarize what Lalitha was talking about, is innovation is not being done just for the sake of doing innovation. Innovation is all about the ability to see change as an opportunity and not as a threat. And I think that's what you spoke about. And Amit, you really drove home the point how, if you want to sustain innovation or any kind of change that you want to bring about, you need to look into it from a business aspect. Just sitting in a homegrown solution thinking it's the best solution doesn't really work if you don't add value. I just want to give you an example because we have teams in different locations, right? So one of the things that I noticed is we run hackathons. I'm sure all of us run hackathons. And we do this global hackathons, and we have 3 different locations. One in UK, which is the headquarter. The other one is in CE, where we have stores. And the third one is in India, where we do not have stores, but we have a large presence of technology teams. And when the output comes, each of the teams does innovation. And I've noticed the stores, the teams which are more closer to the stores, they come up with business-led innovation ideas. While in India, where we do not have the stores, though retail is a business which most of us are consumers, still they come from a system perspective or technology perspective solutions. And both are important, but I really liked what you both said, like it has to be married together. If it's not married together, it doesn't make sense. Now, coming back, we are in an AI conference, and I don't think we can shy away from the famous AI question. So organizations lately are coming out with AI first. So how are GCCs defining and driving AI strategy for parent organization? You gave an example, Amit. So maybe we can start with you, because now you gave an example how something was led from here. So how are you driving it from parent perspective, organization?
Sure. So again, starting with the business first approach and then really breaking the technology and AI. So let me actually go back a few years back, right? So when we were talking about analytics, data science, the trend in most of the GCCs in India was to build those centralized analytics teams, center of excellence, and then colleagues are really looking at firstly hunting for a business project, where you can prove how the analytics create value, do lots of POCs, etc. So in my mind, I think that's like let the 1,000 flowers bloom and see what really works, right? So that was a good approach to start off, right? But the value, what we see is that how analytics and AI eventually, of course, as part of a group strategy, gets embedded in each and every business team that you are talking about. Yeah, you cannot really have this is business, this is analytics. Yeah, so you really need to bring everyone together. And of course, a lot of investments will go in building the right data models so that you have a single source of truth, so that no one is creating their own mini models or Excel sheets or databases in isolation, but try to bring everything together and then see how business problems are getting solved or how new insights are coming. So what I'm trying to highlight is that there has been a shift away from centralized analytics practice to more of a decentralized and much more embedded in the business. Yeah, that doesn't mean that there are no centralized departments, because you still have to have holistic strategy, governance, exploration of new tech, etc. But then the next step is you also don't want that if it becomes decentralized, that it will get into the issue of siloed thinking. So then what GCCs, what we do is, and I'm sure it's happening across the spectrum, is how do you build those community of practice to bring them together, right? And that's where, for example, as Vidya, you talked about hackathons, there are so many other platforms that when you bring the diverse community together, you bring business folks together along with analytics and tech guys. And then, as Lalitha was saying, it's not just the internal ecosystem, but also the external ecosystem. We are actually privileged to be in such an ecosystem where you have access to the tech companies, to startups, and then bring them together to solve the business problems. That's where the impact of that AI strategy will come to life.
That's good.
I'll just add it to that, Amit. Amit, you talked about the business part of it and the analytics not being separate and kind of being integrated, which is the federated model, which is most of the organizations that are opting now. I would take it to one more step, and I will also talk about the cross-functional synergies. Because your business problems are not isolated to a particular function. It is not particular to a particular store, or it is location-based. And more often than not, people forget there is an upstream and there is a downstream to the process. And whenever you're thinking of analytics, data, you need to understand the impact on your upstream and downstream. While you are getting the benefit out of what you're doing for a particular area, but how do you impact, because doing analytics or whatever it is in a particular area, if you're doing extremely well, but if it is not impacting the other parts of the business, you're not really realizing the benefit. So it is about how do you stitch the whole thing together, federated models, keeping the community practice, what Amit talked about, but also creating that cross-functional synergies wherein your use cases get stronger because you're not getting benefit out of one particular area but impacting the other areas. You're able to give byproducts to the other parts of the business which can be effectively utilized. You're able to generate insights not with a single lens and single data sources but with the multiple parts of the thing. So these things are in additionally important. So GCCs, again, have the unique ability to do that because we work cross chapters, we work cross-functional, multiple geographies.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point that you bring about, because when you're cross-functional also, sometimes what happens is you still have this siloed way of thinking. And that's what happens when you look at headquarters. They're so focused on business and they're built in a silo. The organization structure determines how the teams are, and they don't tend to talk. While in GCCs, we have this ability, the bird's eye view across all the functions, especially as leaders. So the question I also had is, as leaders and the mindset, we touched upon it a bit, and for us to bring about any change, if we've really seen the change that we've brought about, GCC, Amit touched upon GIC, then it became GCC, we are in GCC 2.0, we might go to 3.0 later. In that journey, how much of a role does leadership really have to play? And one is the mindset, ownership, end-to-end solutioning, and also building the same, I think, what shall we say, energy with our teams. So maybe Lalitha, you should go for it.
Yeah, I think, Amit talked about the evolution of the maturity in terms of GCCs in India.
Yes.
More and more global leadership roles coming to India, more and more of us being part of the board advisories or working at the cross-functional committees, because all of us do many different roles besides just running capability hubs across the world, right? Because why are you being invited into the table is because of all the points what you're talking about, Vidya, in terms of our exposure to technology, our exposure to transformation, and it is also community learning, right? It is about, we often say, any domain you are in, you just step out of your office and look around, there are another 10 companies in that particular domain sitting around you in a location in India, right? Because of that exposure to different organizational transformational initiatives, that is the viewpoint which bring to the table. That is the reason why we get invited to be to be the transformation advisors, to be on the board councils, to be on the steering committees and all of that. So leadership is extremely important, and that can be developed when we consciously build that exposure to our people and upskill them, bring them up, and give them more accountability and not just tell them what to do, but expect them to take that accountability and deliver better, right? Yeah.
See, I think over last 10 years plus, it's not like the headquarter will always say, yeah, this is how the GCC needs to evolve to the next step. I would say very rarely it has come top down.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's where the role of the leadership comes into the picture to define what is your next ambition. How are you challenging the status quo? Is it really courageous leadership where you are actually putting your neck out in the line to say, we can deliver on this, we can build this new capability, we can enable this business unit to that level. So I have actually, in my experience as well as through industry colleagues, it's always been a bottom-up initiative, right? And GCC heads have continued to evolve what's next. Yeah, so it's very simple. You challenge the status quo, define what's next for next 2-3 years, revisit, and again keep on moving. There is nothing like a perfect goalpost for anything. It's a journey. It's a journey of excellence. It's not a perfection, right? So that's where the role of leadership comes, that while execution is super critical, right? Because if you don't execute, if you don't build credibility, you will never move to that next step. So I think that's a fundamental, it's a foundation. But at the same time, in addition to execution, how are you constantly exploiting the capabilities? Yeah, and that's where innovation, transformation topics come in. How are you exploring new opportunities? And that's where the role is execution plus, and that's where you have influencing, you have strategic thinking, you have thought leadership, multi-stakeholder environment, understanding different culture, bringing everyone together, connecting the dots, orchestration. I can just go on, right? Yeah. And that's where I think it's super critical in all the dimensions, because if you don't invest in leadership, you're not serious about the next steps for the GCC. Yeah, in that case.
Very good answer. Lalitha, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think he's covered it all.
Yeah. So I just want to add one thing, that I was here in India before as the site leader of technology, and then I've moved to UK. And I can tell you the leadership facets that is needed to run a GCC in India is much more. The qualities, the characteristics, and I think you named it all. Getting everybody motivated, diversity, being the change evangelist, putting your neck out there, grabbing the seat at the table, pushing for more. I totally agree. And kudos to the leaders of GCCs who have been able to do it, because it's not one single role. While I've noticed in the UK, they have a very specific objective to work. So good job to both of you.
So I would only add, it is also another skill which all of us are developing, is the ability to predict, our ability to be intuitive about what kind of skills are required, and nudging the organization to think about it and build those capabilities in advance, so that we are ready for the future.
Absolutely. So the last question, because otherwise Samir is going to not allow me to come on stage anymore. So we have 5 minutes, and the last question that we have is the most popular question that everybody asks. ChatGPT and other platforms, they are ushering in a lot of new use cases that will have impact not just on business productivity, but also on organization structure, policies, talent, efficiencies. So what is your view, Lalitha, in the context of GCCs now? Because it's a huge disruptor.
I think generative AI is definitely is here to stay. It is amazing technology. But I would say when the robotic process automation has come, everybody feared that, oh my God, process automation is going to take away all the jobs. Did it happen? No. Right? Similarly, that it means our lives are going to get better in terms of our productivity improvements. So all the GCCs are going to take the benefit out of this. We will deliver better productivity. But at the same time, there are also going to be a lot of net new role creation that will happen. Because with any new technology, you need to think about different dimension. When it comes to generative AI, we're talking about the ethics dimension, we're talking about bias. There are so many other newer roles that will come into play. So I don't think we're going to run out of jobs, but it will impact the way how we work for sure. So we just have to be cautiously optimistic and adopt it as we go along.
Thank you. Amit?
So let me make it more contextual from an insurance, reinsurance sector. Yeah. So currently we are doing a lot of exploration, experimentation. Yeah, on Gen AI capabilities. So we've picked 3 themes. So first theme is the customer experience, right? I mean, there is a reason why insurance is a push product and not a pull product. Yeah, because people don't understand insurance, risk. Everyone is looking at what's the ROI for me. That's why everyone goes through ULIP mode and so on, right? So that's why even in India, the insurance penetration is so low. Now, we see strong potential how Gen AI can actually play a role where, even in local languages, you can actually, consumers can interact, understand the products in a much better way, and really avoid being missold on certain products, right? Because that's another issue in the insurance industry. So I think that's just one example of customer experience. How do you create more value and the application of Gen AI? The second topic is more about how do you deal with unstructured data as such, right? So there's always a difference between B2C companies, B2B. So in B2C, yeah, you have large volumes, low complexity. B2B, low volumes, high complexity. So far, when you talk about tech deployment, automation, it was not really feasible to deploy some of the existing technologies in a B2B environment because the cost was quite high. But Gen AI actually has capabilities to really reduce that gap. And we already have data ingestion projects which are going on because you can really digitize and create a lot of insights on the risk as well as on the existing data sets. Yeah. The third topic is, of course, we all understand the augmentation aspect, the co-pilot and all. And that applies, by the way, across business functions. So it's not just for technology folks. You can apply Copilot for underwriters, actuaries. So we have like a real life case where, for example, if you have to do life and health underwriting, you need to go through tons of documents, medical terms, etc. And right now we have doctors looking into those topics. But Gen AI can actually create a lot of amplification in terms of what is possible, so that instead of searching through the files, you just type a question, you get the answer, and you are creating more insights, more value, for the consumers through that. So these are a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Amit, for sharing some of the things that you're doing. Just to share a few things. When internet came into the picture, it took 20 years for adoption. Then afterwards, we spoke about mobile. It took, I heard around 5 years or 6 years. I'm not remembering the right numbers, but it took a long period of time. And with Gen AI, they're saying it's so fast, the adoption, the digital disruption is so immense that we better adopt faster. And I can tell you that it's not so simple because we're talking about privacy too. Consumer data is there. So we need to be very careful. And we have seen what is happening with Gen I. If it's not used properly, then that gets you into a lot of trouble. And we've seen a lot of use cases. We're not going to get into it because everybody knows. But I couldn't agree more with you. And I just wanted to thank both of you for a lovely discussion. Hopefully it was fireside and as rapid as we could. We were able to go through quite a few various topics which on its own would have been a discussion. But thanks, Amit, for your time. And thanks a lot, Lalitha.